Hello, and on the gaming table today we're taking a look at some Warmaster battles, the Dark Elves versus the Orcs. So this past weekend, Chris, who's one of the members of the Hong Kong Society of Wargamers, and I had a couple of Warmaster battles, Dark Elves versus Orcs. I was running my new Dark Elves that I've just finished getting 2,000 points of, and Chris has 4 armies and chose the Orcs for what he's using today. Now, we played 2 games. We did a 2,000 point game, and because we got that done within 2.5 hours or so, we decided to have another one of 1,000 points just to kind of finish up the day. So here's the setup for the first battle. You can see the Dark Elves are at the bottom, the Orcs more numerous there at the top. So pretty kind of standard terrain. We've got some forests, a couple of hills, some fields, things like that. Nothing too fancy here. Both sides set up with kind of map deployment. We both just kind of drew a little map and put down where our forces were, and then away we went. Now, we're doing a scenario here where there are 3 objectives. You can see them across the middle of the table. And at the end of the first turn, then we will dice off and see which one of those gets removed. As it turns out, because this is not a tournament or anything, we're just having a kind of a one-off battle, the objectives really didn't amount to much and may have just been a distraction, but you'll see how things went. So here's the forces set up ready to go. The view from Chris's side. You can see here the Dark Elves have quite a lot of infantry and not that many mounted forces, 2 units of Dark Riders and 2 units of Cold Ones. That's because I don't have more of those painted up. I usually, when I'm building an army, I start painting a lot of the infantry first, kind of get the boring stuff out the road. So that's why this army is mostly infantry. You can see in the middle there the Witch Elves and the Harpies as well. On Chris's side, the majority of his unit was 7 units of Boar Boys. There's lots of them there. He also has the Wyvern for a hero, and then he's got a Giant as well. So the Dark Elves diced off and took the first turn and actually failed a couple of orders here. So there was a lot of half-pace moves, but not too much, just kind of maintaining a line, but not a lot of forward movement here. The Orcs managed to pass all but one of their command rolls and managed to move everything up pretty much how they wanted. A nice big line, and they're approaching some of the objectives there. Here's all the Boar Boys, all 7 units of them in one big line. That's rather intimidating. The only magic that happened in the Orcs' turn here was a gear off, which just kind of drove back one of the unit of Dark Riders. Apart from that, nothing else happened. So this is where things stand. Dark Elf turn 2. So here I basically moved the Dark Elves a little bit to the left. In the center of the picture on the left there's a brigade on the hill with some Harpies and Witch Elves behind them, and then a brigade running over to the left, the top of the picture there, to get close to that objective. Failed an order there, so I wasn't actually able to get up onto the hill. Trying to kind of stay away from the Boar Boys and kind of hope they don't get too many units in on the first charge. So this is the brigade facing down a lot of those Boar Boys there as they get ready to move. And those Boar Boys charged in here, 4 units of them going into the front of the crossbows and spears. Got 3 hits, stand and shoot. And the second line of Boar Boys there moved up to be ready to take on what survivors remained. The Goblins and Orcs there taking one of the objectives. So here you can see the reinforcements getting ready. On the Dark Elf side there, I'd positioned the Witch Elves where they can counter charge, and also the Harpies, so we'll kind of see how this plays out. Now in the combat here, Chris tipped the balance here by wiring one of his units, as well as dropping the terror-causing Wyvern into one of the units so that it touched both of the crossbow units there, and that meant it was terror all round. So the combination of extra attacks from Wa and the Orc and Wyvern, that's kind of maybe +6 on the Orc side and -6 on the Dark Elf side, that's what tipped the battle. The result here was 16-13 in favour of the Orcs, so they won the first round, even though the Elves were defended on the hill. After the second round, all but one stand of spears and all the crossbowmen were destroyed, and the Orcs fell back into a big block there. So now over to the Dark Elves. So Dark Elf turn 3 managed to get the Harpies to home back and then charge into the flank. Managed to get the Witch Elves 2 orders off and charge into the front and flank here as well. So trying to surround and kill off all the Boar Boys there. The Dark Riders moved up to be able to shoot, and the Hydra in the top left there charged into the flank of the Goblin Wolf Riders. And other units moved. The brigade on the left there moved up a little bit. The Cold One's getting ready as kind of the last reserve, and we'll see how things go. In the shooting here, the Dark Riders managed to do a bit of damage, 2 dice, 2 wounds on the Bull Riders there, who would have withdrawn back. Chris decided to keep them there in confusion, so it didn't disrupt the rest of his line, because the line's pinned at the other end with the Hydra there. In the combat at the top there, the Hydra managed to take out a couple of stands of the Wolf Riders. Now, we actually got a rule wrong there. After the first round, and the Wolf Riders should have been driven back, we kind of got confused with the rules, and we thought that the Wolf Riders could stand and be confused rather than the Orcs giving way. So that's what Chris did. If the Orcs had been forced to withdraw, which is what should happen, the Bull Boys there, that could have caused confusion, and it might have messed up what happened in future turns. But, oh well, such is life. Now, down here, I actually did the combats in the wrong order, which hurt me in the end. So there were 2 combats here. There's the Harpies on the top right versus a unit of 2 Boar Boys with the Wyvern as hatched, and then everything else. So all the other ones are connected by the Witch Elves, but that one at the top there with the Harpies and the Boar Boys is actually a separate kind of fight there. So in that fight, the Harpies actually lost, even though they charged in the flank, had to withdraw, and then Chris managed to withdraw his Boar Boys and Wyvern out of the road. And then the other battle here was lots of damage on the Boar Boys, not too much on the Witch Elves. They didn't do too bad here. And the Harpies, which kind of destroyed destroyed one complete unit of Boar Boys and caused a lot of damage on the others. And after the follow-ups, this is where things were, and then Chris's second line here did some counter charge. Okay, I managed to get a unit into the Harpies and a unit into the Hydra there. Here he's considering his other moves after those initiative moves have happened. He's looking at this big brigade of Orcs and Goblins here. He manages to get 2 orders off there and manages to charge them into the flank of the Dark Riders, which was unfortunate, but oh well. The Giant went wild at this stage on a failed roll, but it actually charged towards the nearest enemy, and so it didn't quite make it as far as the Witch Elves here. Now here you can see the Dark Riders. After the first round of combat with the Harpies, the Boar Boys followed up into the Dark Riders. Now the Dark Riders really have no hope, and they get pretty smashed. And so this is where things ended up, with the Dark Riders dead and another unit of Witch Elves falling down there. That actually took the Dark Elves to their break point. And so things were all over by the end of turn 3. It was actually pretty quick and brutal in the middle there. Again, a couple of things with the rules, but I think maybe Chris got a little bit lucky with some of the command dice rolls. I don't know, maybe the dice gods were just against me a little bit today, but a poor general blames the dice, and a good general just says, well done, Chris, let's go on to the next fight. So for the second one, we had a bit of time. We just put together 1,000 points. Here, I basically dropped a whole lot of infantry, kept all the cavalry, and Chris put as many Boar Boys in as he could. I think he had 4 units at the top of the screen there. The Orcs and Goblins got the first turn, and actually this is at the beginning of the second turn. I missed a couple of photos here. On the first turn, Chris had moved up to this position and also moved his Wolf Riders to take the objective on the left. And in the Dark Elf first turn, the Harpies managed to charge into the Wolf Riders, eliminated them, but then unfortunately rolled really, really low for their fallback move, 4 on 3d6, and weren't able to turn to face the Boar Boys from that position. So they were kind of stuck there. So this is Chris working out what he's going to do. The unit he's pointing to is about to charge those Harpies in the flank. So here's how things went. He got the Harpies in the flank, and the other Boar Boys failed their order, so he just withdrew them back a little bit. And then in the Dark Elf third turn, I went charge with the Cold Ones, basically. Put the Dark Riders into the Orc and Goblin Brigade there. I figured on odds I should, hopefully, on all things being average, win that battle by 1. And hopefully the Cold Ones here will be able to drive back things so that they can join that battle as well. So that was the plan. Let's see how it worked out. The crossbowmen had moved up here enough to shoot at the Boar Boys. They managed to drive them back 11. They're back in the field in confusion. That kind of opens the way a little bit. And the Cold Ones pretty much did their job against the Orcs and Goblins there. They took down 2 stands of Orcs, which Chris duly removed. And then they were forced to go forward, directly forward into the Goblins behind. They didn't manage to kill off the Goblin unit. So the Cold Ones, while not taking any damage, hadn't actually managed to kill off either unit. They got 2 half points there. In the fallback, had to leave a flank exposed to something, so left the open front to the Boar Boys, and the flank unfortunately had to be there for the Orcs to take. The other unit of Cold Ones had managed to deal with its Boar Boys in front of it, but then the closest unit it could advance into was actually the Boar Boys at the back there, so it decided to get into them and hope that the Dark Riders could win their fight. Unfortunately, the Dark Riders didn't win their fight. They lost by 1 or 2 points, and so after withdrawing there, the Orcs and Goblins had the chance to fall back their unit and get ready to countercharge into the flank and rear of the Cold One Knights. And so that's duly what happened in the next Orc and Goblin turn here. Some charges in. Chris again managed to roll well and get his Orcs and Goblins there into the flank of the Dark Riders. And after the units had all died, this was the last combat, and that unit of Cold Ones falling again took the Dark Elves to their breakpoints. So the Dark Elves lost both units of Cold Ones, both units of Dark Riders, and that was enough. So that was the battle. A couple of good games there. Again, the dice gods maybe went against me a little bit on the Dark Elf side, but well played by Chris. He knows what he's doing, and we just had a lot of fun on the day, so good job all round. Also nice to see 2 lovely armies on the table. Lots of people were around taking pictures and things, and so that's good. Hopefully we'll get some more people playing Warmaster in Hong Kong soon. Anyway, drop some comments in the section below if you wish. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again real soon.